Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're here today with Lacey Smith and Ali. I'm going to say her last name wrong, so I'm going to let you say that.
It's Mahate.
Mahadi? Mahadi.
Yep.
See, I would have
Close.
said it wrong. Okay, and they are from CVI Now, and they are going to be uh, introducing us to some of their resources for families with loved ones with CVI. And I hope you all find it beneficial. I have visited their website and I am quite impressed with the wealth of information and resources available. So I'm not sure which one of you is kicking it off, Lacey or Allie.
Um, Allie, I'll let you introduce yourself since I'm kicking off the first of the slides, if that works for you. Let me put us into sh share our screen and put us on our slideshow. You can see that, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right. So my name's Allie Mahady. I manage outreach and engagement at CVI Now at the CVI Center, which is at Perkins School for the Blind. I have a 6-year-old little boy named Weston. He has a rare genetic disease, only one in the world with what he has. So it's doesn't quite have a name yet. He's undiagnosed, but it did come with things like CVI, epilepsy, global delay, and a whole bunch of other things. So that's kind of why I do what I do. Now I'll let you take it over, Lacey.
I'm Lacey, Lacey Smith. I am a TVI by training, but I also am a CVI parent and a rare disease parent. I have a 13-year-old daughter named Savannah who has a ultra rare diagnosis. She's about one of 150 in the world, known as Ogden syndrome. And with Ogden syndrome, she has a lot of coexisting um, occurrences. So CP, epilepsy, CVI, a heart condition. She's a quite a complex girl, but when she was smaller, I decided I was really intrigued by her vision, and that's kind of why I started down this path of learning more about how to support kids with CVI. So we're just going to share a little bit with you guys today about some of the resources that we have on CVI Now, just for you to access as a community, because we know the prevalence in CDKL5 is quite high. Starting with an article. I don't know how much you guys dive into some of the research articles, but this article, actually, Allie's son's neurologist is a co-author on this. So we just have that here for you. The paper, what it talks about is CVI is highly prevalent in CDKL5, as you know. Visual acuity is measurable. Outcome measure with a CDKL def I can't even say that word right now. Deficiency disorder, visual acuity and CDKL5. So it is a lot about the ophthalmological findings of CDKL5. Sorry, I kind of butchered all that, but bear with us. Back last year, we at the CVI Center did a prevalence study with McKinsey and Company, and this was used with medical claims data, and we found that at least 180,000 kids with CVI are that's the suspected number for kids with CVI in the U.S., and less than 20% of them are being diagnosed. So the number of diagnosed kids was around, it wasn't quite 25,000, but around there. So we have a QR code to kind of take you to a more in-depth study of the prevalence data. A lot of common associated conditions occur with CVI, including cerebral palsy, 60 to 70%. 64% of individuals with CVI have epilepsy, 72% developmental delay, 23% autism, 20% genetic anomalies, although Allie and I are both suspicious that that's much higher and it just isn't known yet. Other causes, HIE, hydrocephalus, meningitis. So there's a lot of reasons that basically if there's anything structurally going on in the brain, there could be a reason for us to start suspecting CVI. This is our website, cvinow.org, and we're going to take you through some of the resources that we feel that would be just great for you to have overall, but you can always reach out to us for if you're looking for something more specific, it's likely that we have it. CVI is the leading cause of childhood blindness and low vision in the US. Um, I actually run the parent support, and we offer one-to-one support for parents. So if a parent has a question about CVI, how can I support my kid? It could really be anything. Sometimes it's just to talk about the struggles that they have with their child with CVI. Sometimes it's like how do we get a teacher on board to understanding, or can you share some resources with me? We offer one-to-one support sessions. We also have a Facebook group for parents. In the group, it's moderated and it's for parents and caregivers of children with CVI, but also we have some individuals in there with CVI themselves. So sometimes they bring a lot to our discussions to talk about how CVI impacts them. We also we have a CVI doctor directory. This is meant to be as full as we can have. We have not every state yet. We're really trying to. So if you have somebody personally that's diagnosed your child with CVI, please reach out to me, because we've been doing as much outreach as we can to try to find these doctors that are knowledgeable and who feel comfortable diagnosing CVI. And then we personally ask them if they would like to be listed in our directory for, as a provided or a trusted provider. Just this past September, we launched the Perkins CVI protocol, and the Perkins CVI protocol is an assessment tool. It's meant to be for TVIs, but it has a lot of information that we can all learn from, so it's free and downloadable. It's kind of rooted in what we do at Perkins when we're assessing children's on campus, our students, and then sometimes we have outside assessments. We look at these 16 visual behaviors and then the compensatory skills that are supporting the student during our observations and through a parent interview and through the student portrait. And then we come up with recommendations based on kind of all of that. It's a very comprehensive report. Again, there's the 16 visual behaviors. We have little series on each of these behaviors, but we're looking at visual attention and visual recognition overall. Sometimes even starts with just being visually aware of something, and then how much visual attention, how much visual recognition. If they're not visually recognizing something, we're trying to find out how they are recognizing something. So for instance, is color supporting somebody in understanding what's in front of them or helping them recognize something, or auditory cues, like turning on a piano. We look at form accessibility, which is 2D or 3D better for the student? Impact of light, is light supportive to their visual attention? Impact of motion, is motion, does motion help gain their attention? Does it distract them? How somebody kind of enters an environment, are they visually curious? Do they look around like you and I might? Visual fields, how they're navigating space with their upper limbs and lower limbs, just the appearance of their eyes, the movement of their eyes, how long it might take them to look at something, how much clutter impacts them, how are they identifying people in the world. And I always like to give this example of once I was working with a student, and she walked into her classroom and said hi to her TA. Although her TA wasn't in there, she was just expecting her to be there. So she was predicting she was going to be in there. So our kids are really great at like fooling us. And so we're really trying to understand how they're using their vision or their compensatory skills to really navigate the world around them. Oh, I moved my screen, so now it wouldn't let me advance. But we just launched a CVI Now Educator Hub. So we have this Facebook page for parents, it's private, and now we have this CVI Now Educator Hub. Resources online, but also a Facebook group that educators of all kinds can come in and kind of talk about strategies or difficulties that they're having with the student. So this is a newer incentive this year, along with the Perkins CVI Interventions Library, which has a lot of different areas that we're trying to cover, like literacy and materials, learning environment, communication, presentation methods. And, I think these resources can be great just for parents to browse through, but also, even seeing something in your kid, like maybe it's something you share with an educator so that they can get more ideas. Because I know sometimes we struggle with feeling like our kids are educated appropriately, just based on their CVI. But there's a lot of different interventions, and it's meant to be a place for people to think about instruction for students with CVI, and also a place for them to share ideas. And we just yesterday launched the Perkins Academy. So we are kind of changing our platform of our online learning. I mean, this can be for parents or for educators, but a lot of times I was telling Karen earlier that we have a lot of parents saying, where can I direct these teachers to learn more about CVI? So we will be launching, I think, understanding the impact of CVI um, is one of them, but one of them is available now. I should know this, but it just launched yesterday, so I apologize. But assessing students with CVI, planning instruction, and selecting interventions. So it's not specific to a student, but it will give a lot of ideas of how to really instruct our students with CVI. And
So,
I was just gonna say, I think Allie's gonna go from here.
yeah, just kind of elaborating on a little bit more of the resources that we have at cvinow.com. We do have a Getting Started with CVI Assessments article, which is really diving deep into the various necessary assessments that a child with CVI would want to have for education, such as a functional vision assessment, a learning media assessment, and an environmental assessment. It's going to kind of go over all the details of those things and explain it and explain, what provider does it, a TVI, or the environmental, for example, a TVI and an O&M. So it's really a great starting point for somebody who's getting to understand, what does my child with CVI need in terms of assessments for school. You can go to the next slide. We also have a whole series on early intervention, which I think is just such a great thing. I mean, a lot of kids get diagnosed before the age of 3, so having this up there for them to access, for families to access, to kind of explain the various parts of an IFSP, just some advocacy tips and how to get your team to work together, and just effective, EI practices that you can kind of learn about at an early age, which really can be helpful as you transition your child into school when they turn 3. And kind of the next guide that really goes along with this would be the IEP guide, which very similar is going to break down all the various parts of the IEP, which can be a lot, especially if it's your first child in special education. I know for us, it was kind of a whole new world for us. So having this and being able to break down the anatomy of it and how to describe, what a well-written IEP would look like for a child with CVI and how to maximize that meeting. It is a whole guide, and it's there for somebody to kind of browse through at their own pace, which is really nice. We also have lots of various stories on CVI. These are just some of the 3 that we're highlighting. One of the newer ones is, how does heat affect CVI? We're hearing from lots of different individuals that heat is a huge factor for CVI. And then just different stories. These other 2 are specific individuals who can tell us a little bit about what CVI is like for them in the day of their life. So it's really, some of these are really interesting reads to just learn a little bit more about what's going on with CVI, what an individual has to say about it, and some of the newer things like heat that we're seeing really does play a role in some of the individuals' lives with CVI. We also have a rare disease and CVI specific article. We know that there is that coexisting, rare disease and CVI, that overlapping prevalence. So Lacey and I actually did an article kind of diving deeper into it. And we also have a very similar one on epilepsy and CVI explained as well. And with this one, we've created a one pager. So you can just click that one pager and everything is kind of right there on one page. It's a quicker read, which we find some families really enjoy printing out or like providing to their educational team or their even, EI or medical team just to, if they're not familiar with CVI, it can be really helpful. We are also doing a big collaboration with Deep Connections. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I'm going to butcher the word, Lacey, DEE. So I'm not even going to say it the last E. I always mispronounce, but we're doing a whole webinar series with them for CVI. And so we're having things like, what is CVI? Could it be CVI? Diving into the visual behaviors and observing compensatory skills in your child. And it's really geared towards kids who have, CVI and DEEs. So it's really specific. We have a parent panel coming up, which will be December 3rd at 4 p.m. And so we can provide that registration link as soon as it comes out for anyone who's interested in watching that. But it is, it's understanding CVI and kids with these, epilepsy and these complex medical needs. We have a simple one pager on CVI that you can just download and kind of similar to that CVI and epilepsy one pager. It comes in both English and Spanish and everything's kind of right there on one easy page for people to read and review. And it doesn't take that much time to go over, which is really nice. And we also have a one pager with a front and back, also in English and Spanish, which is when to suspect CVI. Just, it's going to talk about some of the red flags and when you might want to consider that your child might have CVI. And on the back side of that, it will discuss, well, what do you do if some of those red flags are, hitting home and you're thinking my child does have CVI. So we break down medical next steps and educational next steps. So it's a nice little guide all in like one page front and back, which is really helpful. And, I don't want to say that's it because we have lots of resources that are continually being added to our site. But this is our, subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on Instagram. But we're all the time adding new webinars, new series, new articles, new one pagers. So it's kind of the go-to place for all the updated resources on CVI for your loved one. And I think that's it, right, Lacey? We really wanted to leave some time for questions because we know your community might be already familiar with CVI and you might have some specific questions. We wanted to allow time for that.
So thank you both very much for that thorough description and walkthrough of all the resources available. And I do think those things, especially the supports for IEPs and things like that, are going to be really beneficial to our community. So with that, does anyone have any questions they want to ask? I may actually go ahead and stop the recording just in case anyone's intimidated by that. So we will stop that.